We are halfway there for at least for some teams in the NFL. Some teams still haven't had their bye weeks, but Brendan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fetchu. We're going to look at the NFL season so far. We're going to look at some disappointing and surprising teams, give our midseason awards, hand those bad boys out, and update our playoff predictions. So we're going to do that as well. So, Brendan, how's it going, man? You're back.
Doing well. Doing well. Back-to-back days, man. Looking forward to it.
There it is. So let's start in the NFC East. We'll get right into it. Obviously, this is an Eagles-based show, so let's start with the rugged East. So Eagles running away with it here. You just had the Zeke suspension. Who knows if that's going to get lifted again? I mean, that curious case there. But it's looking like it's going to be the Eagles in the East.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much conversation. I think the Eagles run away with the East. I think the only real conversation now is where does that seeding turn into? You know, is it 1, 2, 3? I would say I'd be shocked if it goes to 4, but I think 1 or 2 is fairly confident here. I think it's just going to come down to what happens with Seattle and the Rams, which is a unique conversation to have later. But, yeah, I think it's a lock. I think the only other question we have is maybe does Dallas have a chance to get a wild card spot? I don't think so personally, but I guess in theory they still have the chance to.
You know, we look at this thing. Well, that's the coach's talk. One game at a time. Take every week, one game at a time. But let me tell you something. The Seattle Seahawks, they acquired Dwayne Brown before the trade deadline. You don't think that move was made for the Eagles with that defensive line? That move was strictly to play Philly. They're going to play Seattle in a couple weeks, and then they might play them again in the playoffs. The Eagles, they bring on Jay Ajayi. They couldn't get themselves a tackle, so they go get Jay Ajayi. They are trying to out-Seattle Seattle. They have 2 beast modes now. So you tell me that you got to go week to week, game to game. The Eagles and Seahawks, I think they're both looking ahead.
Without a doubt. Both of those teams made moves to win Super Bowls this year. And I understand, Adrian, you're 100% right, you know, that week-to-week, game-by-game kind of mentality. And I get all of that. But before the deadline, you're either a buyer or you're a seller. Both of these teams were buyers. Both of these teams made good moves. So either way, NFC East, Eagles are in. No wild card from the East. That's a surprise for me in my preseason prediction.
Yeah, Dallas probably going to fall by the wayside now with the Ezekiel Elliott suspension. Their schedule gets really difficult. I like the Redskins, but their schedule is brutal. And they got to play Seattle this week too. So I think they're kind of out of the running too as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have Seattle, they have the Vikings, still have the Giants, the Cowboys. Chargers are still make games competitive. Then they have the Broncos and the Giants. That's kind of a rough stretch there. There's not a lot of gimme games for the Redskins. They have a hurt offensive line. Receiving core has not done any favors for Kirk Cousins. I'm with you, Adrian. I don't see them getting a wild card either.
Yeah, they might go like 9-7 at best, and that might not be good enough.
I agree.
Not good enough. All right, let's move on to the NFC North. So the 2 teams here, we've got the Vikings. Vikings are ahead. What are they, 5-2 or 6-2? 5-2. Great defense, obviously. Case Keenum is doing an admirable job, I'll say. I'll say that. So they look like they're the best team in the North. What about the Packers? Can they stay afloat long enough?
No, I don't think so. And I say that because the Packers – when you lose Aaron Rodgers, that's obviously a massive blow for any team losing a starting quarterback. The problem you have is the Packers built that team around Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball down the field. They never really had a great run game. They certainly don't have a great defense. You know, it's not like I'll use the Ravens as a great example. If Flacco gets hurt, they can still win a game by running the ball and scoring points on defense or, you know, winning a game 17-14. The Packers aren't built like that. I would be shocked if the Packers make the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially with that defense. That secondary is just a nosebleed. They don't stop anybody. And you know, you make a point there. I mean, maybe they could run the ball a little bit. Aaron Jones looks like they found a little something there, but like, I think they're done as well. The question is going to be, what are the Vikings going to get? Can they? I don't think they're going to get a 2 seed. I looked at their schedule. It's going to get a little tougher. They really haven't played anybody yet, too. So yeah. I kind of sense that maybe they go like 11-5, 10-6-ish. I think somewhere around there.
They have a tough stretch there. They go at the Lions, at the Falcons, and then at the Panthers. That's 3 tough games right in a row. I mean, I think, Adrian, when we look back at our team by team preview we did, we both said this wasn't a very good offensive line, and they are very much overachieving at this point in time. Obviously, with Dalvin Cook getting hurt, they're just kind of getting by at the quarterback position, letting Diggs make plays, letting Adam Taheen make plays. I think that the Vikings are going to come back down to earth a little bit. But defensively, they're studs. I mean, they're fantastic defensively. So I still think they're enough to stay pace and win the North. But I see them as the 3 or the 4 seed. And then the Lions, I don't see them getting a wild card this year. I see them probably like a 9-7 range. Defensively, they're just not there. They're still struggling running the ball. They really don't have a running back that they really trust. Stafford does everything by himself. I have a hard time betting on the Lions this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't even mention them, so that kind of shows you where I'm at with them. So moving on to the NFC South. Now, this division is very interesting to me because you have 3 teams. Now, the Saints right now are on top of the division, and they might be the favorite to win the damn thing. You've got the defending NFC champions, Atlanta Falcons, but they got a brutal schedule. And then the Carolina Panthers, who just traded Kelvin Benjamin. Cam Newton has played like shit the last couple weeks, so I don't know where the hell they are right now. So out of those 3 teams, what are you thinking? Who's the best team in that division?
I mean, schedule-wise, Panthers have the best schedule of the 3 moving forward.
Yeah.
But and honestly, I don't have a problem with the Kelvin Benjamin trade personally, Adrian. I don't think he is a astronomical better player than Devin Funchess. Obviously, he is better. Absolutely. I'm not saying he's not. But when you're able to get a 3 and a 7, okay. And I mean, I think their skill set's the exact same. So I'm okay with that. You look at Atlanta. Atlanta, to me, is still the most dangerous team because if they put it all together, they're the best team. They're the best team on paper. They're just struggling. And the Saints right now are overachieving. We talked about it pre-show, Adrian. The Saints went from one of the worst defenses in NFL history to being middle of the pack. And even when the Saints won that Super Bowl, it was because they were a turnover-heavy team. Marshawn Lattimore is looking a fantastic draft pick. All 3 of these teams are only separated by 1 game. I'm going to say the Falcons are going to find a way to pull it out. I think the Falcons are going to click. I think the Falcons are going to win the division and they get the 3 seed. And I think the Saints will get the wild card. I don't think the Panthers will be in it, though, this year.
Yeah, I get the sense that the Panthers are kind of reeling right now, and things just don't seem right. A free fall kind of seems imminent almost a little bit. Yeah. Now, the Saints, you talked about their defense. I mean, they've been average, which is spectacular for them considering where they've been. Marshawn Lattimore has been absolutely outstanding. Kenny Vaccaro is flying around.
Playing very well. Yep.
Cam Jordan's still playing well. So they're having guys that are stepping up, and they're starting to find some jewels in that defensive side of the ball. Who else they have? Haven't some of their linebackers been kind of stepping up too?
A little bit. I mean, again, but this all goes back from – unfortunately, I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer here, but when you're dead last in the league, the only place going up. I mean, that's really what we're talking about with the Saints. Now, that said, when you say, wow, you jumped 15 spots, that's like, wow, that looks really good. Yeah, but you're still middle of the pack.
AJ Klein, that's the name I was thinking of because he's been kind of good for them. Now he's always been kind of a backup. He was in Carolina, but he went to New Orleans. He's kind of played well this year. I like their defensive tackle they drafted last year, Sheldon Rankins.
Mm-hmm.
So they have some young ascending players there, and I think they're gonna win the division because I think Atlanta's schedule is very difficult. But I do think the Falcons are the one team I wouldn't want to play
right.
at the NFC South. But I think the Saints, I'm looking at their schedule. I'm penciling in like 11 wins. And I think Atlanta, I don't know if they get more than 10 because of the schedule.
That's fair. I mean, since we're a Philly Eagles-based show heaviest, you should hope, Eagles fans, that the Falcons win the division.
Because I don't want the Saints to win the division.
Exactly. I wouldn't – the way I look at it is I would not want the Falcons as a wild card early game. So to me personally, I would rather the Saints win the division – or the Falcons win the division so the Saints have to travel to Philadelphia rather than Atlanta travel to Philadelphia. That's just me personally. I know the Falcons aren't putting it together. They're not playing well. Offensive coordinator drop-off is significant. I hear all of that, but I still would rather play the Saints than play the Falcons early in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the Falcons, if they don't win the division, they're going to be the 6th seed. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because the Rams and Seahawks, the way they're going in the West, I don't know how the Falcons can pass those teams, because I think they're both going to get 11 wins.
I agree.
So that's where I'm looking. And let's get to the NFC West now. So we've got the Seahawks. We've got the Rams. Seahawks and Eagles, that game in a couple weeks is going to determine home field advantage, essentially. Now, I will say this on the Eagles side of things. Ezekiel Elliott's suspension helps a lot. So – because I saw like 3 losable games for the Eagles down the stretch. It was at Dallas, at Seattle, at LA. And now all of a sudden you look at that Dallas game, it's not as difficult. So who knows? The Eagles might lose to Seattle and still get the 1 seed.
It's very possible, Adrian. I mean, if we looked at preseason, we said, Dallas twice towards the end of the stretch. Man, the season makers really wanted that, in theory, the NFC East to be in jeopardy in the last 2 games. And now it looks like the fact that you played the Cowboys twice at the end of the schedule is actually a gift.
Yeah.
That's the Ezekiel Elliott suspension. So that's kind of funny how that worked out. But when we look here at the West, it's coming down to the Rams and the Seahawks. Both of these teams will be either the 1 or the 2, and then they'll be the 5th wild card team. That's pretty much the gap they're going to have, because everything that LA has done has been incredible. I think this is the staff of the year, as offensive, defensive head coaches of the year. Everything there is moving fantastic for what the Rams are done. And then as we talked about, the Seahawks made the move to say, all right, let's go get our big left tackle. Let's try to win right now. Defensively, they're looking great. Adrian, a guy you and me both loved, Shaq Griffin. We both said, hey, he was going to be a sleeper. And he walks into Seattle and he's a starter. We called that there. Yeah. I still have the benefit of the doubt going to Pete Carroll and the veteran quarterback and Russell Wilson over Jared Goff. That said, you can't say Jared Goff's a bust. You can't say he's a bad quarterback, because he has clearly shown he can do it in this league.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Seattle's schedule, and it's kind of easy until the end. So I'm curious how because the way they always kind of sleepwalk until the last month of the year.
Yep.
So can they continue to pile up wins with an easy slate until the end? Now, this Redskins game, so they play Washington, they play Atlanta on Monday night, and besides that, it's Arizona, San Francisco. They got Jacksonville in here, Arizona again. I mean, they really don't play anybody. So,
yeah, and the best news for Seahawks fans is you get the Rams at home at the end of the year too.
Yeah, you already beat them.
Right, you already beat them, and Adrian, you said yourself, Seahawks always kind of sleepwalk through September, and then all of a sudden it clicks. The good news is you still got that win in September against the Rams, a team you normally lose to for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Now you get them at home. Like I said, I like Jared Goff, but Jared Goff trying to win a divisional championship potentially, or divisional conference or divisional winning opportunity for him in Seattle. I don't love that. I don't love him that much. So I see the Seahawks winning the division, and then the Rams getting the wild card. Other wild card, in my opinion, is going to be the New Orleans Saints. Yeah.
Rams and Falcons are my wild cards. This game coming up on Sunday, Redskins need it. Seattle's got them at home. Maybe this is my bias coming in, but I think the Redskins can win that game.
I mean, I have a hard time betting against the Seahawks defense to allow back-to-back big quarterbacks to go off on them. And as we know with the Redskins offense, if Cousins doesn't go insane, the Redskins don't have a running game to help him win. So I don't see it, Adrian, but it's possible. I mean, I'm not saying it's not.
There's something about this Seattle team that just doesn't seem right with me. It's not the same Seattle team.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
But they're still like the second best team in the conference, which just kind of shows how bad the conference is, I think.
Right, and I'm going to argue again. I'm going to use your own comment against you. I agree with you, Adrian. They don't seem right, but they're still the second best team. So when they seem right, you're in deep trouble. And it's an awesome move. So their window for error is only moving up. I like the Hawks a lot. I think the Hawks ultimately, I think they'll end up getting the 1 seed. The Eagles will get the 2 seed when things are all said and done.
I guess my point more is, like, compared to the other Seattle teams, I feel like this is the worst.
Well, I think the other thing, too, when we look at the other Seattle teams, we always knew the run game was going to be solid. Yeah. Now we don't. And I like Russell Wilson. I think he's very, very good. But are we ready to say he can carry a team? That's really what we're conversations about the offense. Can Russ carry the team?
I mean, when they're throwing the ball, he's literally scrambling out of the pocket on every play. He's doing it before the pressure even comes. He's just going along the perimeter, and he's still making plays though. So credit to them. Now, obviously, they got that great defense, but they also had some outings where it's just like you're looking at it like, man, like that's supposed to be Seattle's defense this year, But yeah, there you go. All right, so let's get, we just spent 10 minutes on the Seahawks. That's stupid me. Let's talk about the Rams a little bit. So I think the big move for them was when they made it during the offseason was Andrew Whitworth to help that offensive line and get Todd Gurley going. And you get Todd Gurley going, all of a sudden that opens up things for Jared Goff. It's a little bit easier for him. So, and then you have Sean McVay in there. And, well, I know people in Philly want Doug Peterson to win Coach of the Year, but he's not. Sean McVay is.
Yes, 100% right. I mean, look, the Rams went from they didn't have a draft pick last year, but they were in the top. They would have been in the top 10 to now being a potential division winner, and you could even say maybe a 1 or 2 seed in the NFC because they do control their own destiny. I mean, they can beat Philadelphia, they can beat Seattle, and if they do that, and then the Rams went out, the Rams get the 1 or the 2 seed. So they very much could be in that control. So I agree with you, Adrian, 100%. I think that's going to be our Coach of the Year candidate.
Maybe this seems like a silly question, but what is Sean McVay doing that Jeff Fisher couldn't?
I mean, he's done a much better job at kind of dialing down the offense, making it more of a college-style, quick game passing. And they've done so much of a better job with roster. I mean, sometimes we just got to say that the roster is light years better than it was last year. I mean, we look at the best receiver the Rams had, can't even start for the Cleveland Browns now. I mean, that's really what we're saying here. I mean, they added Cooper Kupp, who's looked like a complete steal in the draft. Offensive line has gotten so much better. Todd Gurley is now able to run forward and gain 2 yards before a defender hits him versus catching the ball and then getting hit right away. The roster is just a million times better. So as much as I do give credit to the coaching staff, you got to give a ton of credit to Les there and the general manager and say, you've done a fantastic job at making sure the Rams are improving this season.
Mm-hmm. All right, so do you want to do NFC predictions now, or do you want to wait until we do all the divisions and we'll do
Let's do the NFC now.
Okay, all right. So my 1 seed, I've got Philly. No, I've already got mine all written down, so I don't know if you do or not. But I got Philly as the 1, Seattle as the 2, New Orleans as the 3, Minnesota as the 4, the Rams as the 5, and Atlanta as the 6.
Okay. See, I'm going to go Seattle as the 1, and the reason I say that is I think Philly's going to stumble against the Seahawks, and I think they're going to stumble against the Rams. Not because of the teams per se, but because of the offensive line massive drop-off in Philadelphia, and where do both of those teams excel? The defensive line. Yeah. So I think ultimately the Eagles will lose those 2 games. They'll get the 2. So I have Seattle 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give the 2 there to the Philadelphia Eagles. 3 seed, I'm going to go the Atlanta Falcons, and then I'm going to give the Minnesota Vikings a 4. Now, when I get to my 5 seed, this is where I'm going to give it to just because of the current standings. I'm going to give it to the Rams, and then I think the Saints are going to slip a little, but I still think they're going to make it at the 6 seed.
Okay. Now, who are the other kind of contenders? Carolina, I'm just not seeing them. Maybe Washington, not seeing them. I think it's kind of down to those 6 teams, really. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's really no one else. I think it's really those 6 teams, and then I guess you throw in the Cowboys, you throw in the Redskins, and then you throw in the Panthers. Those are the 3 teams that could potentially steal something. The Panthers are the only team in that conversation who could potentially win their division. I don't think the Lions can do it, but if Stafford gets hot down the stretch, I guess it is possible they could be a wild card threat. But I don't think they're going to make up that 3-game deficit they're currently behind Minnesota to win the division. Yeah. Are we, completely overlooking Dallas? Because I've just given up on them because of this thing.
I think we are, to be honest with you. I mean, we have to talk about the fact that Lawrence there is as a 10 sacks is currently playing like a Pro Bowler, which is one of the biggest minuses Dallas has had in the years past. I think the reason we overlooked Dallas, and rightfully so, when you look at the number of carries, Alfred Morris is the second guy with the most carries, and he probably has 50 carries. And now we're supposed to believe that he's going to take over, or McFadden's going to come in. McFadden hasn't been inactive for most of the season, so it's hard for me to think, okay, they're all of a sudden going to just click and pick up where Zeke was taken off. I like Dak. I know I like Dak more than a lot of people, but I'm not ready to say he can carry an offense all on his own. So I think we are overlooking him, Adrian, but I also think that their ceiling is probably 8-8, to finish the year.
You said it right there, because I like Dak too, but I don't love him. I don't love him to lead a team right now. He's not ready to do that. I mean, teams are literally challenging him to beat you. So the fact that teams are doing that, he's not there yet. But I mean, that doesn't mean he's not going to be a good quarterback. So.
Without a question. And let me rattle off who the Cowboys have next. Chiefs at Falcons, Eagles, Chargers, Redskins at the Giants. That's the only gimme they have. At the Raiders, Seahawks, at the Eagles. That's not an easy stretch with or without Zeke. So I'm saying, they go 4-5. That gets them to 8-8.
Yeah. I gave up on them because of Zeke and that schedule. That's why. All right, let's move on to the AFC East. We've got a battle between the Patriots and the Bills, baby.
No, it's not a battle. Let's just nip that in the bud right away. Bills are doing a fantastic job of overachieving. I think they were the most surprising team in the NFL, I would say, at this point in time.
I would say so, yeah.
But there's no conversation. Patriots win this one walking away.
All right, so let's. I want to focus on the Bills before we go to the Patriots. So, how the hell are they doing it? I mean, I'll say this: they nailed their first round pick and Tre'Davious White. There you go.
Yep. And they traded back to get him too. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Tre'Davious White came in there. He's doing an exceptional job. And I think the other guy that they acquired from the Sammy Watkins trade, E.J. Gaines, has been equally as impressive. So you got two corners that came in here out of nowhere, basically, and are killing it. Maybe White not out of nowhere, but for a rookie cornerback to do what he's doing is very impressive. Obviously, you still got the defense. Tyrod Taylor's playing well. What about the Bills?
I mean, the Bills are the only team in the NFL whose running backs have more receptions than the receivers. That puts something into perspective. I would say this: the most valuable player in the NFL, as far as valuable to their specific team, is LaShawn McCoy. As LaShawn McCoy goes down, that's a massive drop-off in all skilled players around Buffalo. You look at Tyrod Taylor, and when people hear that game manager conversation, first thing they think of Alex Smith. Tyrod Taylor's the same dude. He just has a little more juice in his legs.
Yeah.
Went out and got Kelvin Benjamin. And you know what, Adrian, normally, and I think you're pretty similar to me, we're like, you know what, if you're not a Super Bowl contender, then just get draft picks and build up for the future. I agree with that, except for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, last time they were in the playoffs, they lost on the Music City Miracle. That puts you into perspective how long it's been. They're also the longest playoff drought in Major League sports without going to the playoffs. So for the Bills just to get a wild card spot, it means a lot to them. Even if they get bounced in the first round, like I think they probably will, it means a lot for them to get into the playoffs. So I have the Patriots winning the division, but I do have the Bills getting in a wild card spot just as long as LaShawn McCoy doesn't get hurt.
Well, here's the difference between the NFC and the AFC. I don't think the AFC up top has some teams that I think are better than the NFC. Pittsburgh, New England, and we'll see about Kansas City and how they pan out for the rest of the year. But at the back end, I'm not seeing the wild card teams really emerge. So I can see the Bills making the postseason. I'm looking at their schedule right now. So after this Jets game tonight, you got New Orleans, you go to LA to play the Chargers, at Kansas City, and then New England. That's your stretch right there where we're going to find out how good this team really is.
Yeah, I agree.
So Jets, they're probably going to win. So that's 6-2. I'm just looking at their schedule real quick. 7, 8, 9. Man, can they get to 10 wins? I'll say they go 10-6 for now. I'll go back to them. All right, so the Patriots. So we know how the Patriots are. This is another one of those seasons where they're kind of starting slow. They have problems with their defense. They're letting up big plays. But this is kind of what they do. They kind of seem to fix the kinks, and then by the time the playoffs roll around, they're soaring.
Yep. Give me Tom Brady and the avocado ice cream until he can't do it anymore. I mean, I'm good with it. This is one of the surefire bets in the NFL. You just kind of bet them to win the division. The Garoppolo trade, I think they made the right move, honestly, because you weren't going to spend $47 million in 2 quarterbacks if they wanted to re-sign Garoppolo. So go ahead and get a second-round pick. That second-round pick is probably going to be 33 or 34 overall, and that's what they historically have.
Actually, a first-round pick.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you're sitting there, maybe you're able to still go out and get a late-round quarterback like Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State or someone like that you fall in love with, and then you can see if you develop them there.
Yeah. Yeah, they like drafting quarterbacks and then trading them. They like doing that. They do like doing that. They'll like draft one. Well, I don't know where Garoppolo was a second rounder, though, right?
He was.
Yeah. But I remember, Brian – was it Brian? Oh, Mallett was the guy where they drafted him in, the 4th or 5th round. They got him for a good draft pick. But the question for the Patriots is, are they the best team in the AFC?
No. Kansas City Chiefs are going to be the best team in the AFC. That said, I still think the Patriots can and probably will beat them.
Yeah. I would think that they're probably going to go to the Super Bowl again.
It's hard to bet against them. I mean, I think the easiest money in Vegas is just walking up and saying, hey, I think Alabama is going to be in the Final Four, and then I think New England Patriots are going to be at least in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they've done it for how many years in a row now?
Exactly.
So, all right, let's move on to the North. Basically, the Steelers and everybody else.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are going to be able to win this division. I think they're in a pretty good spot. They always have that tough games against Cincinnati. They always have tough games against Baltimore. They already beat both of them. So they're in the right direction. As long as, we don't see any major injuries for the Steelers, they're moving in the right direction. I have no doubt in my mind that they win the division and probably get the 2 or the 3 seed when it's all said and done. And I don't see the wild card coming here from the rest of the North. The Ravens' offense is just a laughingstock of bad. Unless the defense is putting up points on the board, they're not going to be able to do it. The Bengals, again, haven't figured anything out. They just find a way to struggle and find a way to be that all Madden video game team, but all terrible real-life team. And then the Browns are the Browns. I mean, there's nothing else to talk about there, really.
The Bengals. The Bengals is funny because, we did the 32 for 32 teams, and out of all the teams – I think the Bengals fans were probably the most delusional.
Yep. I mean, I remember them saying Andrew Whitworth was replaceable.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
12-4?
Yep.
They were saying.
Yep. No. Not going to happen. And here's the thing. Adrian, I know you and me, we talked about this in the past, how we both aren't really big fans of head coaches also being the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is if you allow someone to be the offensive coordinator, you essentially just are paying someone to be a scapegoat. That's what Marvin Lewis has been doing for years. Marvin Lewis has been paying for an offensive coordinator so he can fire them when they struggle and then get one more a year. I don't think this is the year Marvin Lewis has any more scapegoats left. I think he goes. I think it's time for the Bengals to absolutely blow it up. I would be okay if they traded A.J. Green because by the time A.J. Green's career is over, I don't think they're ever going to be a Super Bowl team. So why not trade him now when you get something really high? Because I think, Adrian, would you agree with me the next couple of years, at best, the Bengals win 10 games?
Yeah, I agree.
So I would just blow the whole thing up, sell it everything, and see what you get.
I kind of get the sense that maybe that's what Miami's doing.
Yep.
Doing. That's why they traded Jay Ajayi. So, because I looked at that move, I'm like, well, why in the hell would they do that for a 4th round pick? I know they had the reports out of, he was clashing with the coaches and stuff, but that Miami roster is just not cutting it. They got 10 wins somehow last year with that roster. I don't think it's a good roster at all. They already cut Byron Maxwell, so they got rid of that contract. I don't like the team. I think they might trade Jarvis Landry during the offseason. I think that's the way to go with them. Just blow it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors about moving on from Ndamukong Suh too. And there was another, I mean, he's another one that you could move and probably get a fair amount of picks for. The biggest question for the Dolphins is what they're going to do with Ryan Tannehill, because they have a potential out in his contract this year. I would be surprised if they don't do it. I think at this point all signs are pointing that they will move on from Ryan Tannehill. And I'm going to say it now, Adrian. I see Ryan Tannehill moving on to a team like the Denver Broncos.
I like that. There you go. All right, so let's move on to the AFC South now. Now, this division is a jumbled mess. So my instincts and gut feeling right now, even though I've said before the year that Jacksonville is a surprise team, I'm starting to like the Texans because of Deshaun Watson. There's something about him right now. Now, the Texans' defense is atrocious now because of the injuries to J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless. Jacksonville, I like them, but I don't trust them because they're a Jekyll and Hyde team. I don't know which team's going to show up each week. But the Texans seem like they've got a wave of momentum behind them right now with that. I mean, it was a loss to Seattle, but the way that they played, I think that was almost like uplifting for them. I think they're going to ride a wave, and I think with maybe 9-10 wins, they're going to win this damn division.
This division every year, man. I mean, every year it's like, hey, if you win 9 wins, you might be able to win the division.
Yeah.
Every single year we say that. Adrian, I'm going to give you a shout-out because you correctly called the Jags being a much-improved team, and that defense has looked just flat-out filthy. Bringing in Derrick.
We'll just ignore the Cardinals one.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that you brought it up, so, yeah, you did say that too. So they brought in Marcel Darius for a 6th-round pick. And, they bring him back in to reignite with Coach Marone, who had him in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for there, that's a steal. As long as you're okay with the contract, that's a steal. Yeah. I would probably say the Jags have the most expensive front 4 in the NFL. So, as long as you're able to do that, you're able to get by. And talk about game managers, you pretty much just turn to Blake Bortles and say, don't throw the ball to the other team. We don't care if you complete passes or not. Just don't throw the ball to the other team. That's all you're asking him to do. That's it. That's all you're asking him to do, okay? So as long as Leonard Fournette doesn't get hurt and they're still able to run the football, it's a very similar conversation that we talk about the Buffalo Bills. They got to be able to run the ball. They got to be able to control the downs. They got to be able to give Blake Bortles very, very simple throwing options. I see what you're saying there, Adrian, with the Jags. Now, the Texans, defensively, they're just absolutely abominated by injuries.
They are.
It's rough. And then you go to Deshaun Watson, and, I mean, he's the number 1 player in most fantasy leagues. I mean, he's just lighting the league on fire. I will fully admit when it comes to rookies, especially quarterbacks, I will believe it once the season's over. I have a hard time believing it during the season. I know he went toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson, that Seahawks defense, and gave him everything they could have wanted and more. I hear that, and I understand all of that conversation. But to me, when there's divisions like this, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the veteran quarterback. And who's the veteran quarterback in the division? That's Marcus Mariota. So to me, Adrian, I have the Titans figuring out the run game, being able to win the division, because right now they still are leading the division. I have them winning the division. I have the Jags finish 2nd, the Texans finishing 3rd, and the Colts finishing a distant 4th.
All right, so I just changed my mind because I look at the Jaguars' schedule, and it's Cupcake City. Cincinnati, LA Chargers, at Cleveland, at Arizona, Indianapolis. Those are your next 5 games. It's a joke. Seattle, they play Seattle at home, Houston at home, at San Francisco, then at Tennessee. Maybe that decides the division right there.
Yep.
So actually, after you spoke, I'm kind of off the Houston bandwagon.
I just give the benefit of the doubt to the veteran quarterbacks because
I really like Watson. I mean, that was my number 1 quarterback in the draft. That was my guy. And then when the preseason came around, I was in awe of Trubisky. But I will say that I will take credit of having Watson ahead of him.
As you should.
Titans, we'll see. I got this weird feeling about them. They just don't look right to me.
They haven't been able to run the ball. I mean, that's what they were. Their bread and butter was being able to run the ball and be a really nasty and elite level offensive line, and they just haven't been able to do that. I guess the good thing and the bad thing is they already went through the annual hurt of Marcus Mariota, which seems to be a repeating thing. They already went through that, and they're still first place in the division, so they still control that. When I look at the Titans' schedule from here, Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Colts, Texans, Cardinals, Niners, Rams, Jags.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
No, it's not. I look at the Bengals, the Colts, the Cardinals, the Niners. There's 4 easy wins right there. And then if you split between the Texans or the Jags, then you get a 5th win there. And then I think they're able to beat the Ravens. That's 6. I think the schedule is favorable enough for the Titans moving forward to get things right. They're also just coming off of a bye week. So I hope that gave them a time to get healthy. They get Corey Davis back, which it could be a really dynamic player down the stretch for people in fantasy leagues. If you can get him, pick him up now. And then I hope the offensive line clicked in that bye week and can kind of get things moving in the right direction.
Basically, whoever can get to 10 wins is going to win this thing.
100% right. That's 100% right.
I'm looking at the schedules. Now after looking at the schedules, now I have Houston 3rd, which is funny. Because I see this is what happens when you do these shows on the fly and you don't prepare. So I'm going to go Jags. Because of the schedule. And I don't trust the Titans this year. I like Corey Davis, though. I think that's going to be a key addition for them for the second half of the season. I drafted him in fantasy, and I've been waiting for him to play all season long. I've stashed him on my bench. So there you go. All right, AFC West now. So we've got the Chiefs. They're running away with the division, sort of. And then the Raiders, I'm waiting for them. I don't know if they're coming.
I have a hard time betting on the Raiders, especially because at this point they're looking at the wild card. That's where they're at. The Chiefs are going to win the division at this point in time. So the Raiders, when you look at it, they've lost to the Bills, who's a team who would then own the tiebreak there for a wild card spot. So I kind of crossed them out. Now, they believe they did beat the Titans, so that is a good sign for them if that wild card conversation comes out. They don't play the Jags, so they don't have to worry about that as well. I don't have the Raiders making the playoffs, and that shocks the heck out of me. This was a team I had really high expectations for. Marshawn Lynch has looked just absolutely abysmal. Let's just be honest.
He looked great in week 1, and then it's been bad from there.
The most exciting run he had was against 17-year-olds in a high school highlight tape. I mean, he hasn't done anything. And as someone who drafted him, I wish I could have gotten fantasy points because that was the largest run of the season I think I've had from Marshawn. So I just have a hard time. The defense in linebackers is as bad as we knew they were going. They went and signed Navarro Bowman, which was a nice signing for them. But I think that just puts a Band-Aid on the gushing blood. I don't think that at the Raiders are going to be a team. I think at this point they're probably going to be looking at an 8-8 record outside looking in.
They are what, 3-4 right now?
Yeah, that's right. 3-5 right now, actually.
3-5.
Yeah.
Wow. They're fucked. They're done. That's it. I don't like their defense at all.
No.
Yeah. So all right. So now I'm going to look at the Chiefs because there's going to be a 3-way race for the 1 seed. At Dallas, all of a sudden no Zeke. That's probably a win.
Yep.
They have, they really don't play anybody for the rest of the year.
At the Giants, home versus the Bills. At the Jets, Raiders, Chargers, Dolphins, all at home. And then at the Denver Broncos. Very good schedule moving forward for them.
They might win out.
They very well might.
And if anything, that's 1 loss. That's 13-3 for the Chiefs.
And they own the tiebreak versus the Patriots.
Yes, they do. The Patriots aren't going to catch them. Unless, let's see Pittsburgh. Can Pittsburgh go? I don't think Pittsburgh can go 13-3.
When we look at Pittsburgh, let's see here.
They did beat Kansas City.
They did beat Kansas City, so that's the good news for them. They also have a fairly easy schedule moving forward. Tennessee, Packers at the Bengals, Ravens, Patriots, Texans, Browns.
A little bit more difficult, though, than the Chiefs because they got to play New England.
Correct.
Tennessee, we'll see kind of how they go, but that's in 2 weeks, so.
At the Texans doesn't look easy.
No.
It does not look like an easy game, especially because it's towards the end of the year. And I still think that the Ravens will find a way somehow to beat the Steelers this year. It's just every year that's one of those games. Like on paper, one team always should win, the other team does. It seems like they always split. So I just think the Ravens will split them.
I'm going to pencil them in at 12-4. So that Patriots game might be for the 2 seed. Pittsburgh plays them at home. Will Pittsburgh beat New England at home? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Patriots win that game. I'm going to say the Patriots lose like one more game, 1 or 2. So Patriots get the 2, Kansas City gets the 1, Pittsburgh gets the 3.
Yep.
All right. And now for the rest of it, let's figure this out.
All right, I'll rattle off mine first.
Yeah.
So winning the AFC this year, guys, I have the Kansas City Chiefs and Big Red Andy Reid. I have him winning the division, winning the AFC. Getting the 2 seed, then I have the New England Patriots, followed closely by the Steelers, mostly because of that tiebreak conversation, Adrian, you talked about. I think New England will be able to go into Pittsburgh and get a win there. Then I have the Titans. I think the Titans are going to find a way to win this division at probably 9-7. And then you'll see the Jags at the 5 seed, and then I think you'll see the Bills there at the 6 seed. I could see the Bills surpassing the Jags, not because I think the Bills are a better team than the Jaguars. Schedule's just a little easier, especially when you get to play the Jets, and they still have the Dolphins twice. I think that helps the Bills a little bit, but that's how I have them. Outside looking in is where I have our Raiders.
Yeah. All right, so my 1 is Kansas City. Number 2 is New England. Number 3 is Pittsburgh. 4, Jacksonville. 5 is Tennessee. And then 6, I got the Bills.
Okay, so we're the exact same. The only difference we have is who wins the South, but the other one gets 5.
Yeah. I don't see where wildcard teams could be coming from. Like I can who? Ravens would be maybe.
Texans. The Ravens are the next best team at 4-4.
Yeah.
After that, you're saying the Texans are 3-4. The Jets are 3-5. The Jets aren't going to get a wild card. I mean, at that point, then if you think that the Ravens won't get it, then you can very realistically put the Raiders back in the conversation at 3-5. But also the Chargers are at 3-5 too.
Yeah, I'm guessing 9-7 gets that 6 seed. I don't know if the Bills are going to falter or not. I don't know. I still can't get a read on them. Again,
as long as LaShawn McCoy can stay healthy and they can win games, 24-21 in that range, I think they'll win it. They just can't get into shootouts.
Yeah. All right, so let's kind of get into some awards here. We'll kind of go through this quickly. I think we spent a lot of time on these divisions, actually. All right, so I guess what are we looking at here? MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Yep.
Well, my MVP is Carson Wentz, obviously, because, I'm an Eagles fan, and I am biased. So, no, actually, I'm not biased. I really think Carson Wentz is playing like the best player in the league right now. Eagles are the best team in the NFL, 19 touchdowns. I feel like if you want to actually give him some competition, I think you can say Deshaun Watson's up there too. But I'm going to go Wentz. Brady has some great statistics as well, but he's in New England. I'm going to go Wentz as the MVP.
It's a fair one, Adrian. I would probably say Carson Wentz is also the odds-on favorite now to be the MVP. The only outside shot, I think, is if the Eagles falter, I would then give it to Alex Smith, which would shock the heck out of me because I think the way Alex Smith, the way he would be able to win it is if the Chiefs would win the AFC. And then I think that's a very fair conversation to say Alex Smith could be the MVP. And the shocking thing is we could see an MVP and Alex Smith being traded next year to let Pat Mahomes come in. Yeah. So that would be a really interesting dynamic there. If Alex Smith is gone, Jacksonville Jaguars, man, that would be a fantastic fit for him.
Yeah, hey. I'll throw a name out there, like under the radar, that could come up. I'll throw Antonio Brown in there.
It's a very good name, yeah.
Because he's leading the league in receiving yards by a wide margin. Mm-hmm. if he somehow gets close to 2,000, he's going to win the MVP. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good one, Adrian. The only other one I would think about maybe Todd Gurley. He'd be my outside shot too. Because if the Rams win out, and if they're same conversation, if the Rams get that 1 or 2 seed, you could say Todd Gurley gets the MVP.
Yeah. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Is it Deshaun Watson or is it someone else?
It's Deshaun Watson. Now, if I'm taking Deshaun Watson out, I'm probably going to say at that point we both had running backs preseason. Mm-hmm. I said Kareem Hunt. You said Fournette. I think at this point I would stick with Kareem Hunt though. I think Kareem Hunt would be number 2 because I think that's really what we're arguing here is who gets the second place vote.
Yeah, right now Kareem Hunt would be the second place guy. I really do like Leonard Fournette though. Yep. I love me some Fournette, but Kareem Hunt has been everything is advertised. Like, wow. I'm sure you were high on him as well before. There were a lot of people that were high on him before the draft. I don't understand how a guy like that can go unnoticed. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. How can, like, guys like us, armchair quarterbacks, now you kind of do the scouting thing because you work for the IMG Academy, but for me, it's like I watch Kareem Hunt. I know he's good. Why don't the other teams see it?
Well, I mean, with Kareem Hunt, I think unfortunately the first thing they're going to say is, well, he was a MAC guy. I mean, I think that's the first thing you have to say is he's not playing in the SEC. Also, when you look at the combine, he didn't really have an elite combine. I think he was like a 4.6 something in the 40. So, usually above 4.5 is a little bit of a concern for a back. So he didn't really, tear it away. But his game tape is sufficient. His game tape is fantastic. So I think a lot of times it comes down to your scouting department. What do you value more, those personalized testings or the game tape? The Raiders, for example, they were the team every year. Hey, whoever benches the most and whoever runs the fastest 40, we're going to draft them. And then you have teams, obviously like Andy Reid's scouting department, who says, what's the game tape say? That's who it is.
And when you watch his tape, it was very boring at Toledo. He caught some swing passes, and he's got great balance when he runs, and that's why he's able to churn for so many yards after contact, and he breaks a lot of tackles. But when you run like that, it's not sexy. He's not being elusive. So maybe when the team is watching that tape, they see that, they're like, maybe that won't really translate to the NFL. I guess that's what they're thinking. But whenever I watch Kareem Hunt play, I was like, that kid's going to be a stud. And he's been even better than any of us could have thought.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I will say that I think surprised a lot of people, Kareem Hunt's most receptions he had in college was 40. Mm-hmm. So that's not really like an elite level out of the backfield. It's very good, but it's not an elite level that would make you say, oh, he definitely is going to be able to come right into the league and be a receiving threat out of the backfield. Yeah,
that's a good point. All right, so that's that. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, is it anyone else but Marshawn Lattimore?
No, Marshawn Lattimore has this one in spades here. I mean, especially when you look at the first overall draft pick has been out a lot of the season with concussion issues. So, I mean, he was the odds-on favorite by a large margin. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy, and concussions, I mean, unfortunately, they happen. There's nothing you really can say, my guy I had Reuben Foster. I mean, he's been a guy who's missed some games too. So, yeah, I don't think there's a question here that's Lattimore.
Yeah. And I'm kicking myself for the Eagles' sake because he was one pick away from the Eagles in the NFL draft. He kept falling and falling and falling. I'm like, oh, my God, he might fall to us. And, of course, the Saints pick him up right before we pick.
Well, I said that to the guys that I was standing at the draft with. I was saying to my buddy Z, I said, dude, if you're the Eagles, don't fuck around here, man. Lattimore has slid way further than he's supposed to. Trade up one spot or two spots and go and get him because your biggest need going into the draft was corner, not defensive end. So like Barnett, I'm not crucifying him and saying bad things, but I think that was the biggest need. He was the best corner. So there's that. The outside guy, I would go with Jamal Adams from the Jets. Him and Marcus May are both playing fantastic for the New York Jets. They're flying around back there. So Jamal Adams would be my number 2 guy.
Okay. I'm trying to think of players. It's kind of hard off the top of my head right now, but I'm trying to think of edge rushers. Like, is anyone coming off the edge that's really – I mean, those guys kind of come along more in their second year. Mm-hmm. I got nothing. I mean, Garrett was my guy before the season, but he's had those concussion issues like you were saying. All right, so biggest surprise, biggest disappointment. My biggest surprise is the Bills. Other surprise is the Rams and the Jets. The Jets I thought would go 1-15.
I'm going to say my biggest disappointment is I have 3. Obviously, the Raiders are the easy one because I think, including myself, I had the Raiders as a 2 seed coming into the season. So there's that. So far, my biggest disappointment is the Titans' offensive line and an inability, I should say, to run the ball. Not necessarily the offensive line. They're just not running the ball nearly as well as they should have. And then my fun one, the New York Jets are my most disappointing team. Your job was to tank. That was the open conversation. And you couldn't even tank right. Like, I was talking with this about my buddy who's a big Giants fan. I said, you realize everything the Jets want to do, that same year the Giants will do it better. When the Jets wanted to win a Super Bowl and they had all those great players, the Giants won a Super Bowl. Now when the Jets are like, oh, we'll just tank, now the Giants are able to tank. They are the little brother in New York who can't get it right. They can't win right. They can't even lose right. So the Jets are my most disappointing team.
I guess you could say the Giants are the most disappointing team. You could say that. I mean, by God, they were a popular, trendy win the NFC East pick, and they're 1-6. So there you go. I'm trying to think of other disappointments. I really got nothing. I mean, I know I picked the Cardinals to get the 1 seed, but I wouldn't say that's a disappointment because of injuries.
I mean, the only other team I would say, I think the only person who has a Coach of the Year candidate is going to be Bill O'Brien. I think he deserves a ton of credit for what Deshaun Watson is, because you can give Deshaun Watson all the credit in the world, and rightfully so. He has playing out of his mind, but you have to give it to the offensive coordinator and that scheme that they're able to put around there. So I think when we look at the coaches of Coach of the Year candidates, it's obviously Buffalo is right in that conversation. Obviously, the St. Louis or Los Angeles Rams are in that conversation, and the Houston Texans. So the Texans are probably my most surprising team.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. I got nothing. No more on the agenda. So those are our mid-season predictions, our awards. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We couldn't do the live stream because it was acting up, so we used Zoom. And hopefully it's turned out okay.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Brennan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedque. Take care, guys. Peace.